So, my question was, who is Layla and what happened to Layla? Okay, Layla. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I got to put some lip gloss. Give me 1 second. The question was, who is Layla and what happened to Layla? So, I ended up getting pregnant. I want to say that summer of my sophomore year. So, 2014. I ended up leaving. So, I did withdraw. I went back home. December came and my aunt got married in December. So I was at the wedding. I was fine. Everything's fine. Then after her wedding, she had like a reception at the church. But then we went back to her house and she had like a more turnt reception. I guess that's what you call it, where they were drinking and stuff like that. But I remember sitting in the chair while they were drinking and having a good time. And I felt the urge to like pee a little bit. And of course, when you're pregnant, you really can't hold your bladder. So as I was getting up, like I was trying to like, I guess, shake, do the pee dance, whatever you want to call it, to make sure that it didn't come out before I could make it up the steps. So once I was able to actually get up, I went upstairs, I went to the bathroom, I pulled my pants down. Then, as I was about to grab the toilet paper, I just so happened to look down. And my underwear and my pants were covered in blood. So, I looked in the toilet, and either there was pee mixed with the blood or I never had to pee at all. It was just blood everywhere. It was all over the floor, like when I stood up. So I got a lot of toilet paper, balled it up, stuck it in my underwear so that I can go downstairs to let my mom that I needed to go to the emergency room. And I wasn't hurting. It wasn't hurting. I wasn't cramping. I didn't, like, there were no signs to let me know that something was going on. And I believe this was the 20th. I want to say it was the 20th. Around there, the 19th, 20th. Somewhere around that. But I was able to go downstairs and my mom was sitting next to me. And so I tried to sit down and like tell her without making it a big deal. Even I know it was a big deal, but with it being my aunt's wedding day, of course I didn't want to like ruin the moment for them or for their guests. So I was trying to softly tell my mom that I needed to go to the emergency room because I was bleeding. But my mom had had a few drinks, of course. So she repeated it to me, I guess to make sure that she heard me correctly. And she was a bit loud, so it kind of got everybody's attention. They was like, well, what's going on? What's happening? Like, how much are you bleeding? And so I was trying to explain to them that, like, I could probably soak a pad within a few seconds. Like, it was bad. And they were all worried, but they were trying to keep me calm, like letting me know that I shouldn't just jump to the negative thoughts and just try to stay positive, stay calm, just breathe. But my aunt and her husband actually took me to the hospital. She stayed at the hospital with me. And it's like she just left her wedding party, well, reception. She left her guests. Everybody was just left at her house. She just left when I did. So we got to the emergency room. I went to Vanderbilt and I was telling the lady that I was bleeding and that I was obviously pregnant. I was 20 weeks pregnant. And so she immediately got me a bed. They sent me to the back. Of course, they checked my vitals and stuff. They were asking questions. So I finally got up to the labor and delivery room. That's where they took me. And I was actually in somebody else's room. They had put me in the wrong room. Like, they had already given that room to somebody and then put me in there too. But they ended up getting it correct very quickly. So I went to my room and they wanted me to undress and put on my gown. And she went in. She did a internal ultrasound, and she also did an external, but the external didn't show her what she needed to see. So she did an internal, which she was trying to avoid because I was already bleeding. So she was trying to avoid that, but she needed to see what it was that what was causing me to be bleeding as much. So she saw the baby, and she told me that my cervix had dilated 1 centimeter. And I don't think I was completely effaced, but just about. So at that point, of course, they admitted me to the hospital, and we were trying to do everything that we could to avoid labor. So they had me on some, I believe it was steroids. It was a pill form of something that I had to stick inside of and then lay down. Like, they were not letting me get up to do nothing. I could only get up when it was time to put the medicine in, and then I had to lay back down. So the doctors were coming back and forth. We were just waiting to see like what was going to happen. And I didn't dilate anymore. I did, before I ended up being discharged, I did end up being completely effaced. I was in the hospital, I believe, from the 20th to the 23rd. So at this point, they did come in and they explained to me that there was nothing that they could do. That I could either go ahead and let them take her, for better words to say. I could go ahead and they could induce my labor, go ahead and take her out, because at this point she wasn't going to make it. They told me that she wasn't going to make it. Like, nothing they could do was going to help her. It was too late. And the reason that it all happened is because I had a weak cervix. So once I made it so far in my pregnancy, my cervix couldn't hold that weight anymore. So it was too late to get the cerclage, which is the stitch that they put in to keep your cervix closed. It was too late for that because we did not know in enough time that I even had a weak cervix. But they did tell me that I could go ahead and give birth, which is what most people would do, and that's what they would recommend, but they cannot make me. So it was up to me. I was going to fight to keep my baby alive long enough for her to be born. I knew that I wasn't going to make it full term, not even close to full term. But if I could have just made it a few more weeks, they would have been able to give me the steroids for her lungs, and she would at least have had a chance to survive outside of the womb. But I let them know I was against the inducing, wasn't gonna do that. But I fought hard, so hard. And when they discharged me, they put me on bed rest. I had already called my job. I was working at McDonald's, and I had a pretty decent relationship with the manager, so I just texted her and let her know what was going on. And she was like, well, with what's going on, I'm actually just gonna have you off work until your doctor can say that it's okay for you to come back. You're gonna be off. But they discharged me the 23rd because they said that because I was choosing to fight for my child, that there was nothing they could do. Like, they weren't gonna leave me in the hospital, like, to monitor me, because they had already told me what they would have preferred me to do. But because I chose to fight, they sent me home. I was still a centimeter dilated. I was still completely effaced. She was already head down. And I just remember laying in the bed before I left, because I had to wait on my uncle, which is the one that had just got married. I had to wait on them to come back and get me. But I remember I was just laying in the bed. I was crying, praying. I was begging God not to take my baby. But a piece of me knew. I knew. Because it was like, when they told me that there wasn't nothing else that they could do, I went home the 23rd. I remember we went because they wanted me to have like soft food. So they didn't want me to like eat a real heavy meal. So I went and got some sherbet ice cream. And I remember me and my family, well, me, my mom, my sisters, we were sitting in the living room. Everybody was having a bowl of ice cream. And my stomach kept hurting. And I figured it was just because I had ate the ice cream. Like maybe the ice cream just wasn't agreeing because it was late. By the time I made it there, it was late. So I got the ice cream, ate the ice cream. And once I started hurting, my mom was just like, maybe you should just like go lay down. Like, because I was sitting up and they wanted me to be laying down. But of course I can't lay down and eat my ice cream. So I went into my room and laid down. And I was like dozing off, but I would never like completely go to sleep because I was just hurting. Like even if I was asleep, I still felt it. So I remember I was texting her dad and he was just telling me to just like calm down, not to get too overwhelmed, just try to relax, breathe. Say like it was like after midnight, the pain got very intense. It was very intense. So I believe I called my sister first. I think I called Brittany first in the room. And I was letting her know that I was hurting. I didn't know what to do. Nothing was helping me. Like it was getting to the point that I couldn't handle it. And turning wasn't helping. The tears just made it worse. I could not calm down. Like it was bad. And so my mom came in and she was helping me to the bathroom. She was like, well, maybe you just have to poop. And she was like, that'll hurt too if you have to poop. And I was like, okay. So I went to the bathroom. I actually did go to the bathroom, but it seems like after I went to the bathroom that it eased up. So I went and I laid back down, and within a few minutes it was like worse than what it was originally before I even went to the restroom. So I was telling my mom, and I was barely able to speak because I was in so much pain, but I didn't start back bleeding. So I was kind of confused as to if I was gonna actually go completely into labor or if I was just having contractions. But it ended up getting completely out of hand. So they called the ambulance and had them come on to the house, and they explained to them the situation that was going on. They explained to them that I had really just got discharged from the hospital, and they came in. Before they got there though, because I was in so much pain and I started to feel the urge to push, so they were telling my sister that she was going to have to deliver my baby in the bed. So they were taking my clothes off. But luckily, by the time they got my clothes down, they ended up coming in the room. So they checked me out. They said that I was going to be able to at least make it to the hospital. So we pulled my clothes up, and they put me on the stretcher and took me out. Got me, well, they were in there talking to me, asked me like what was going on and what did the doctor say and stuff like that. So I was answering the questions just fine, and then it seemed like they just kept repeating the same questions to me. I'm not sure if they were trying to like keep me up, like keep me alert, but I started to get irritated. So I did start being a little rude because I was in too much pain to keep answering the same questions. Like it was pain like I had never felt before. I didn't have any pain medicine. They didn't give me any pain medicine. So I was hurting way too bad to just keep answering the same questions when I know that you heard me when I answered the question the first time. So I did start getting a little bit irritated. But we finally made it to the emergency room, and they rushed me up to labor and delivery. And it was like the whole time they were like, okay, well, get off the stretcher and move to this bed. Okay, no, get up, let's walk to this bed. And that was making me hurt a whole lot worse. So I let them know that I could not move again. And I knew at that point that I was in labor, and I was trying my best not to do a lot of movement because I was still fighting for my child. Like, I did not want to keep moving because I felt like if I kept moving that was just going to speed up the process, or that was just going to make her come on down. And that was the opposite of what I was doing or wanted to do. So they finally got me in labor and delivery and got me in the bed. They were trying to make me do it with no pain medicine. By the time I got there, I was completely dilated, completely effaced. I was really ready to go, but I had refused. I was not going to push until they gave me some medicine. I refused. It was bad. Don't even think I would have been able to focus long enough to push because it was so bad. Like, those contractions were terrible. And then while they were going to find my medicine, I remember feeling her ball up. Like, she balled up in a ball on my right side. And it was like she was refusing to come out. It's like she knew that she wasn't supposed to come out. I knew she wasn't supposed to come out. And we were fighting together to keep her in. After they gave me the medicine, it was like they told me to push. Like, I think I may have pushed twice. So I gave birth to her. She had a heartbeat up until I started to push. Once I pushed, that was it. And I gave birth to her on Christmas Eve. And I remember them taking her after she came out, and they wiped her off and stuff. And it was like they were getting ready to go ahead and take her out of the room. And I had to remind them, like, hey, I understand. Like, I did let them know, I understand that she did not make it. I know that she doesn't have a heartbeat. I understand all that. But I still want time with her. And so they wiped her off. They let me hold her. There was a nurse that came over to me, and she was like, I'm just going to check and see if she has a heartbeat. You all had her on the table, wiping her off and stuff. You could have checked her heartbeat away from me. But she waited until I was holding her. She came over and she checked her heartbeat, and then she let me know that she didn't have a heartbeat. I already knew. But they did give me some time with her. And then they did go ahead and still take pictures of her. She got her handprint and her footprint done. And I still have those. They still put her in like a little hat and some type of blanket that they make for little babies that don't make it. It's like a charity or something that makes blankets, and they give them to the women whose babies don't make it. So they had her wrapped up in there, and they brought her back to me after they took her pictures, and it was just heartbreaking. It was. And I just see other people post videos and stuff of their babies in the hospital once they've passed on. I was not strong enough to do that, because once I gave birth, it was like they were kind of rushing me to hurry up and spend time with her, get all the pictures that I wanted, because they had already discharged me. Maybe like 10 to 15 minutes after I had her, I was already discharged. They let me know that I was free to go. So they asked me if I had her funeral already planned, if I was going to actually have a funeral, or if she was going to be cremated. I could not afford a funeral for her, so I did have to get her cremated. And they gave, like, I believe like a week, maybe 2 weeks later, they gave me her ashes. I had to go back to the hospital to get her ashes. So I don't know. It was heartbreaking, especially to happen on Christmas Eve, like right before everybody was happy and celebrating Christmas and opening gifts. I lost my daughter. The only thing that I had of hers were her blankets that they wiped her off with, and the clothes that she was in, because they took them off of her so that I could have them. That's it. But that's it for this video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want more storytime videos, give this video a thumbs up, and you can comment any storytime topics down below. But that is all, and I will see you guys later. Going back to work.